A flurry of appointments in the last 24 hours, bringing Donald Trump's future administration into fuller view. Sources tell NBC News that Trump is expected to tap Florida Senator Marco Rubio for Secretary of State. Rubio once called Donald Trump a, quote, con artist who can't be trusted with the nuclear codes. But over the years, he became one of Trump's biggest boosters. We'll have more on that pick later in the hour. But we begin with another appointment to another high-profile post that reveals the one quality Donald Trump really values in his future administration: loyalty. NBC News reports that South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem is expected to be named Secretary of Homeland Security. The news coming less than 1 month after this incredible moment. We once aired all 39 minutes, but since you've seen that already, you know that that goes on for 39 excruciating minutes. And we thought today maybe it's a reward for that Noem will now head the agency that will be responsible for carrying out one of the incoming Trump administration's key campaign promises, and that is mass deportations of millions of undocumented immigrants here in the United States. Noem will head the department that oversees FEMA, helping Americans recover from natural disasters, the department responsible for the TSA. They protect Americans when they fly. The DHS will be responsible for security for the 2026 World Cup and the 2028 Olympics, both of which will be held in the United States during Donald Trump's second term in office. Now, after going through her resume, the only obvious qualification we found for her appointment today has been her blind loyalty to Donald Trump. But maybe you'll see it differently. Here's a sampling of her record. Noem gained national prominence by refusing to shut down South Dakota during the height of the COVID pandemic, which at one point had the highest per capita death rate, the third highest in the world. Recently, in her memoir, she was caught fabricating meetings with world leaders like North Korea's Kim Jong-un and France's Emmanuel Macron. And she's currently banned right now today by 9 Native American reservations, which account for 20% of the land in her state, for speaking outright lies about drug cartels operating on those reservations. And of course, in her own words, she admitted to shooting her own dog because she couldn't train it properly. News that was so shocking and offensive even inside the MAGA bubble that it appeared to tank her chances of becoming Trump's VP. That's where we start the hour with former Trump White House Deputy Press Secretary Sarah Matthews. With us at the table, NBC News correspondent Jacob Soboroff. He's the executive producer of the film Separated, based on his book of the same name. It is about mass deportations and family separation that took place during the first Trump presidency. Also at the table, political columnist, host of the podcast Impolitic for Puck, MSNBC national affairs analyst John Heilemann is back. I start with you and the serious belief among Trump's voters and supporters that this will happen. Just give me a sense of how many people he successfully deported the first time and how much larger the operation will be that Kristi Noem will now be responsible for this time.
Simply put, less than Obama, who deported more people than any president in the history of the United States presidency. And let me back up and say again what we said when we talked last week. Mass deportation is family separation by another name. There are millions of people who live in the interior of this country who have undocumented family members, maybe as many as 20 million. And so what Kristi Noem is going to have to do is make the decision that Kirstjen Nielsen, who comes to mind in this moment, made when she was presented with a stark choice by members of the political operation of the Trump administration, namely Stephen Miller and other people who pushed this policy. Would she sign a memo like Kirstjen Nielsen did? Option 3 was the memo for family separation, to deliberately deport people that are intertwined with the lifeblood of the country, people who are in our schools, in our churches, in our places of work, who are our neighbors, who make the economy go in this country every single day. And most importantly, is she willing to stomach the blowback that this country saw, that the world saw, unilateral, not bipartisan, but sort of universal condemnation, including the Pope, to something that separates families in the interior, and that is exactly what they are proposing. I know they're saying sort of felons, not families. That was the Obama line, actually, back when he deported more people than any other president in history. Are they just going with the Obama plan, or are they going to go further? I'm very curious to hear from this administration about the particulars and the practicalities of this. And now that's on Kristi Noem, who, by the way, I don't know how many people she managed in South Dakota. Maybe it was 10, 15,000 as the governor. The Department of Homeland Security has 260,000 employees. Is she prepared for that? Is she ready for that? That's a question that she's going to have to answer.
Sarah, DHS is a relatively new government agency. It was propped up after 9/11. It does have, though, the highest profile events that happen in this country. And for someone as vain as Donald Trump has proven to be, who might take pride in pulling off an Olympics or a World Cup, what does it signal to you that someone with no, again, we looked at her record, we didn't find any obvious experience with events of that scale really ever happening on her watch. What for you explains this pick?
I think that it all comes down to loyalty. Like you noted, her record, she doesn't have any background in national security or law enforcement that you would typically see to choose someone to head up this agency. And the mission of the Department of Homeland Security is a vital one. It's vast. It covers things like you mentioned, from FEMA to Secret Service falls under DHS. And obviously there's been failures at Secret Service right now. And then the border crisis, something that Donald Trump ran on, that was a key part of his campaign, and why I think you saw people switch to support him in this election. And to imagine that she's going to be in charge of all of those things is a little bit alarming. And I think it's been telling, too, that even MAGA world, there's been some pushback on this selection. I think that not everyone is necessarily thrilled with her selection. She turned off a lot of people, even those within MAGA world, with when she was pushing her memoir and told the story about killing her puppy because she couldn't train it. And so I think it's worth noting that Kristi Noem has killed more animals than any Haitian migrant in Springfield, Ohio ever has. But to imagine that she's going to be in charge of this agency is a little bit alarming. But I think some of Trump's other cabinet selections, even if I think someone like a Marco Rubio is spineless, I think that he's more than qualified to be Secretary of State. Whereas I don't know if people can say the same about Kristi Noem.
John, let me show you some reporting from my colleague Julia Ainsley at NBC News. She writes this: Noem has a close relationship with former Trump campaign manager Corey Lewandowski, and he has given her political advice during her career. One source familiar with the decision to pick Noem as DHS secretary said Lewandowski may join her with a senior position inside DHS, possibly as her chief of staff. This is Corey Lewandowski on child separation, as Jacob described it during the first Trump term.
I mean, look, I read today about a 10-year-old girl with Down syndrome who was taken from her mother and put in a cage. I read about did you say want to a 10-year-old with Down syndrome being taken from her mother?
Pick anything
How
you
dare
want
you?
up at the
Heading to the top of DHS.
So many things to say.
We got 2 hours, baby.
I mean, you know, I think for a lot of people, I know for those of us who love our dogs, that was it and you know, it's interesting, of course, Donald Trump, the former president, future president, who has no use for dogs. Not surprised, maybe not a coincidence that he doesn't find that terribly off-putting in her selection. I think there's there's no doubt the following things are all true, that the mass deportation plan is this Trump 2.0's version of Build the Wall, and it's the highlights, the banner headline, long promised during the campaign for years. He's been talking about it. It's also the case that, unlike building the wall, the political risks entailed are much higher. A serious attempt to mass deport 20 million undocumented immigrants from this country would require the federal law enforcement, state law enforcement, local law enforcement to do nothing but that. And the first time something went wrong, which it would quite soon, where a kid got shot, somehow something, you know, rounding up people and putting them in cages, putting them in trucks, trying to get them out of the country on that scale, the risks of a high profile catastrophe, human catastrophe happening that would backlash against Donald Trump pretty quickly are very high. Also, the business community in America is not for this policy. This is a huge number of people who are, I say this cynically, but it's just a fact, who are cheap labor for American business. So there's a certain amount of deportation that the business community will tolerate. On a mass scale that Trump has talked about in certain cases, there would be a huge backlash from a lot of big American companies. Again, people that Donald Trump does, in fact, care about to some extent. There is a question in my mind about, so what is the scale of this going to be? And how much of it is going to be a Potemkin thing designed to look as though there are mass deportations happening when there are not, in fact, mass deportations happening. And I will say that among the many things that are both curious and extraordinarily disturbing about Donald Trump's relationship with Elon Musk, one of them is, in the same way that Twitter/X got turned into a propaganda, misinformation, disinformation machine for Trump in the campaign, I think we all have to be very careful and very vigilant in our business to make sure that that platform and associated other platforms aren't being used either to minimize or exaggerate the degree to which this policy is in fact being affected as we go forward. I can talk about this all day long.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I think I have some friends who are students of this subject. One of whom I saw yesterday in Chicago, a woman named Jory Craig, who is brilliant and has been studying the right-wing information loops in a serious way for a couple decades. And her comment to me yesterday was, there's a way in which this could be done. Like, look out for the possibility that this will be done for show, that the social networks that want to amplify Trump's message will claim that it's taking place on a larger basis than it really is.
Like wag the dog.
Sorry?
Like wag the dog.
Yeah, a little bit in the way, yes. That was not the